Philosophers Live. It is the Friday night edition. This is going to be episode number 29. Remember, you can find us live on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify as well. I want to especially thank Aaron Nordstrom for joining us our last episode, number 28. Make sure you go back and check out that episode. It was a wonderful conversation we had with Jason Brock as well. We also want to say best wishes, Aaron, out there. Their band is just now leaving on tour today. So we wish them safety and much success out there on the road. I also want to introduce our co-host for Friday night, Brother Jason Brock. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, Brother Briggs. How are you doing this evening out there in Chandler? Are you in Chandler or are you in Mason?
I am. It is the Devil's Doorstop. It's 117.
Oh my God! It is cooking out there today. I walked outside in blast furnace. At least the humidity's gone. It was humid a few days ago, but man, it's still a roaster outside.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I kind of take it from here for just a second. First, to everybody out there who's watching us, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or whatever the streaming service you have is, we would truly appreciate it if you would share this program. And if you have the option of sharing it publicly, not just on your private Facebook page, that would be even more appreciated. So please, if you've got a chance, please do that either now or later in the program after you enjoy what you see. So now I'm very honored to introduce to you Brother Salman Sheikh. Brother Sheikh is right now in Philadelphia, but he comes to us from the William Preston Lodge number 766 in London, right? But he's in Philadelphia now, and he's going to be talking to us tonight about his new book, and it's titled Spiritual Reflections of the Sufi Freemason, Volume 1. I take it Volume 2 is in the works?
Yes, sir, it is.
Well, Salman, it's great to have you here. And if you just start to like to tell us about this new work that you've got out, we'd love to learn more.
Thank you, my brother. Thanks for having me. My thanks to Brother Briggs and all of your audience and members for having me on this platform. My journey basically starts off in the aspect of Sufism, the aspect of Islam, the mystic side, which led me to Freemasonry in many ways, because it teaches you the two paths, one destination. And for your audience, I have prepared a presentation which will help me articulate this in a more concise manner. So what I will do is I will do the screen share and I will start this presentation for you.
Fantastic.
Just give it a moment.
Well, that's loading. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. All is well. Life is going great. And here's the presentation.
There we go.
Wonderful.
So basically the aspect of Sufism and Freemasonry tied me into this path about what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? And as I was growing up, I always wanted to see society in a way where we could all come together. We could all come together and love one another, whether you be Muslim, Christian, Jew. And I saw that the Masonic fraternity was displaying those values, something that our world which is in such chaos and division, needs it more than ever. That's why what drew me to the Masonic fraternity and to use its values to help teach that to others. So with that, I will start. And this covers basically the majority of what's covered in my book as well. So I will start with a quote from William Preston, whom my lodge is named after. So he says, "The true Mason is a citizen of the world, and his philanthropy extends to all the human race. Uninfluenced by local prejudices, he knows no preference in virtue, according to the degree in whatever or climate may spring." It also relates to Manly P. Hall, who also says that the true Mason bows before every altar, because you see truth. You see the aspect of the grand architect of the universe, the point within the circle, and everything around that circle is a tapestry of different colors and patterns. That is to be celebrated. And you could take knowing that there's one mountaintop and there's different paths that lead up to that same mountaintop. And that's the beauty in this life and in our brotherhood, where we can all come together and learn from one another. So you have in Sufism the 3 stages, equivalent to the 3 degrees of Freemasonry. So the first stage is you have to fight the ego coming to light, from darkness to light. So you have to make sure that you're coming without any ill motives to the brotherhood, that you have a belief in God, you're of a good character, and you're there to basically be in a stage of self-improvement, to be a good human being. The second stage is the tarika, which is an order to unite with the grand architect of the universe. Now, this is, if you read Rumi's poetry, this is what he calls by being lost from his beloved. So his beloved is Almighty God, or aspect of the grand architect. And that's what the Mason is seeking too. When he treads this path, he knows that this path will be filled with anxieties, it will be filled with tests, it will be filled with many things which will get the best of him, trials and tribulation. But he accepts that because of his quest to get back to the beloved. And that's in the Sufism, it's the same exact thing. Now, the third stage, or the third degree, is the marifa, the act of know thyself and know thy Lord. And everything is basically within your heart. Everything is within your heart. And that's what the Sufi teaches you, is that everything is telling you to look out there, but nothing is telling you to look within, where God dwells. And everything is basically an aspect of knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your foundations are, and just looking at yourself in the mirror. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose? Am I just here to work, pay bills, and die, take care of my family? Is there more of a purpose that I was sent here for? And you begin to have that self-realization and understanding within yourself and realize, okay, this is my gift to the world, and this is what I have to share. And that's what we find in Freemasonry as well. The brother who discovers his talent or skill, and they use their talent or skill to help their lodge or jurisdiction or their community in whichever way that they can. So the Sufi says that there's the four worlds and the four realms of knowledge. We're right now in the first one, which is matter, earth, water, air, fire, and ether, the aspect of knowing God and knowing thyself. So this is what a lot of the spiritual people call the 3D realm. And the Sufis believe this is the first level. The second level is the spiritual beings like jinns and angels, heaven and hell, cause and effect. So there is an aspect of as above, so below. So if there's a spiritual war, like warfare taking place here in our reality, in our 3D reality, there's one taking a place up there too. And it's a reflection of our, basically our standing in society and our inner reflection of who we are and what we stand for. And that's basically what's reflected from our heavenly companions. So that's what the Sufi says, that, in the aspect of even Omar Khayyam, who says that I myself am heaven and hell. So it's your reality inside. If you choose to be in a good frequency, you have good thoughts, you have good deeds, you choose to love others, forgive others, then you will create heaven on earth for yourself. But if you choose to be in a state of low vibration, low state, anger, hate, the aspect of just hating everything and everyone around you, then you're going to create the hell for yourself, because you are given the choice. Everything is by free will, including in Freemasonry and in Sufism. You can't blame any circumstance. Everything ultimately is with your permission. It's like there'll be 3 a.m. in the night and someone knocks at your door, whether it's a being or a human being. They cannot come inside without your permission. So the light and the aspect of the world that you're trying to create, it's within you. Everything is within you, and that's what the Sufi and the Masonic path have one and the same, as I reflect in my book. So the third level is the source of the lost word. So all the Masons, we have the aspect of finding the lost word and the hidden tablet. And the fourth realm is the realm of the grand architect of the universe. Now, when you see the Sufi dervishes, they're whirling around in this like nonstop motion. They say that everything is one. So myself, Brother Briggs, Brother Jason, they would say that everything operates within this one hand, that we're all the same being. And basically, whether you have the goodness or the other aspects of reality that we're dealing with, it's basically God holding us in the palm of his hands. And that's why even in Sufism or Islam, they pray like this, because it's the aspect of God holding you in the palm of his hands and everything operating within that one being. And that's what the dervishes are doing, trying to get back into that reality. So just spinning and spinning in this continuous one motion, because everything is infinite. Now you have the aspect of the pillars, or the 5 pillars of Islam, which go hand in hand with Sufism. You have Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. And the Islamic pillars, they go by the aspect of shahada, being a charitable individual, giving alms or giving charity. You have the aspect of prayer, like you have prayers in the lodges, we're doing almsgiving. Then you have fasting, which is to circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds, because that's what fasting helps you to do. You have the Hajj, pilgrimage. You have to make your pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in the east. The Mason is traveling back to the east to find knowledge and light. Zakat, almsgiving. So you see basically the Masonic path or the Sufi Islamic path, it's one and the same in terms of how you're carrying out your lifestyle and how it's helping you become a better human being. Now, you also have the aspect of jihad. Now, many people, especially the last 20 years, there's been a misconception that the Muslims are carry out jihad against Christians and Jews, which is incorrect. The greatest jihad that you can do is within your own self, to lower out your lower qualities and defeat your lower qualities, your lower nature, and have that alchemical transformation of your lower qualities into higher qualities. And that's what, even when we read the book of the alchemist is basically a Sufi sheikh who's guiding Santiago to discover his own powers within him, to fight that jihad with his own nafs and his own self, to become a better human being. Now, many people have this aspect of the light, and what is the aspect of the source. Now, the Sufi tradition, I mean, the historical records would tell you that Islam started with the aspect of the Prophet Muhammad in the 6th century. But the Sufi would tell you that you had the physical avatar of Muhammad in the 6th century, but you also had what is called the light of Nur Muhammad. So they say that all creation, first this light was created and all creation was created from this. It's the aspect of basically first everything there was darkness and then light came, how it's described in the Masonic teachings as well, that first there was darkness and then the grand architect of the universe displayed light on the universe. So they believe that everything comes from this one light. So if we all come from that one light, the Sufi teaches you, how can you hate anybody? If myself, Brother Briggs, Brother Jason, all our brothers all over the world, we're connected under this one brotherhood of man, under the fatherhood of God. If we can all understand this and have this realization, then there is a possibility of peace on this earth. So what is the goal of the Sufi and the Mason? The goal of the Sufi is to become one with his beloved, the grand architect of the universe, and to be better, his adab, in his character, and basically to bring honor to self and humanity. The goal of the Mason is to believe in God, his brothers, smooth as ashlar, from a rough ashlar to a smooth ashlar, and be a better man. So it's two paths, one destination. It's basically telling you that you're given this life, and if you don't make the most out of this life, you're always reminded with the aspect of your mortality, and that your mortality is there. Don't waste your life. Don't waste your time that God has given you. Use it to be the best that you can be. And that's exactly one and the same with both paths. Now, most people do not realize that the Prophet Muhammad was a widow's son. He had lost his father at a young age, and he was raised by his mother, a widow, till the age of 6, which then after his mother passed away, then he was adopted by his uncle who had raised him. So his uncle also had the aspect of taking care of widows and orphans like Masons do. And that's what he did when he had adopted this orphan child, the son of a widow. So he said, I had come to perfect the adab, or the character of mankind. So the widow's son had came to perfect the character of mankind, just like how we have today of perfecting our character and doing the right thing. And that was when the religious and racial freedom and the different like laws were established, such as the covenant of the prophet with the monks of St. Catherine Monastery, which gives rights to Jews, Christians. But, you know, unfortunately, after the death of any leader, you have those that want to maintain their control and don't follow the original laws. So the laws of the St. Catherine Monastery were followed by Saladin in the Holy Land when he protected the Christian pilgrims and their places of worship. So this was originally from the covenant of the Prophet Muhammad. And he instructed mankind to become one ummah meaning community. So all of this is exemplifying is what the Masonic Brotherhood is teaching us in terms of perfecting our character, becoming one community, whether we're black, white, American, from Pakistan, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, we're all one and the same. We all bleed red. We all have tears and heartbreaks for our families, for ourselves. We laugh, we cry. We're all one and the same. And that's what our brotherhood in both the Sufi tradition is teaching us. Now, you also have the aspect in Freemasonry where we're trying to find the lost name of the grand architect of the universe. In Sufism, you also have the aspect of the 99 names of Allah, and the 100th name is missing. And the 100th name is something that you can only find within your own heart. When you reach a certain spiritual station in your life, that's when that realization comes to you. So one of the names of Allah is Al-Basir, the all-seeing. And they say the camel also knows the 100th name. And you see, like even in the shrine, how the camel is given the regard in many ways. So Al-Basir is, he is aware of the deeds done in the darkness. And there's a story that relates to this. There was a Sufi sheikh, and he had 3 disciples. You know, of course, everything happens in threes. So he had instructed his disciples that I want each of you to take this chicken and take it in a place where kill it, where no one can see it. So the first disciple took it to the back of his house and killed the chicken there. The second disciple took it to the forest and killed it there. Now the third one came back to the sheikh and said, I couldn't do it. He said, everywhere I was, in my house, in the forest, in the basement, the grand architect of the universe, Al-Basir, was watching me. Everywhere I go, he was watching me. His all-seeing eye was on me. There was no place that I could escape to where his gaze was not upon me. And it just goes to show you that in our life, our deeds and things that we believe that we're getting away with stuff, we're not getting away with anything. There's always a price to pay for our hidden and basically seen and unseen actions. So we have to be mindful of that. Do we have just one mask? Do I have just one mask while I'm dealing with Brother Briggs and Brother Jason? Or do I keep the same personality when I deal with my family, at my workplace, with my job, dealing with the community? So the only way you'll have peace in your life is if you keep one mask for all endeavors, where your personality stays the same. You be yourself in all those situations. And that's when you make peace with yourself and the higher powers. What Freemasonry and both Sufism teach us is that don't waste your time. And there will come a time when we go to the Celestial Grand Lodge where there is an aspect of accountability in many ways. So you also have the Brethren of the White Cloth. And what happens is when we go to Mecca, we're basically walking around with this white cloth. And it tells you that you came into this world and you're going to leave this world in the same way, with nothing. So when you go to Mecca, you make that holy pilgrimage from the west to the east to try to gain more light. You're divested of everything. So here you have a Middle Eastern and you have a white brother. It doesn't matter. They're all equal and on the level. And they're all equally divested, wearing that white cloth. And that white cloth symbolizes death. That this is the same cloth that they're going to wrap you up in when they bury you. And it basically reminds you of your mortality. Now, the name of this white cloth is called the Ihram, or phonetically Hiram. So you become Hiram when you go to Mecca. And this is what changed also the life of Malcolm X, because Malcolm X, when he was here, they were telling him to hate others, or hate white people, or hate these people. And when he went to Mecca, he saw that everyone was the same. Everyone was equally meeting on the level. Just how we have the lambskin innocence of a master mason. When one master mason sees another, he knows that that's just a friend that he has yet to meet, a brother. Just like how with Brother Briggs, like we kind of spiritually know each other, even though we haven't physically met. So that's what basically the aspect of the Ihram is, or Hiram, when you go and put that white cloth on, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, we're all brothers, and we're all in this together. And that's what changed Malcolm X's life, and that's what changed the life of many people, and removed the hate from their hearts. So you also have the aspect of memento mori, aspect of death. And this is what the Muslim believes, and that's why in many aspects, they're not afraid to die. When it comes to their death, they're like, okay, you know what? I know this life is an illusion. So whether it comes to war, whether it comes to any conflict or any situation which kind of gets the best of you, they don't care whether they die in the situation, because it's about our mortality and our reality that we accept that every soul will taste death. And it tells you that, and we test you with evil and with good as trial, and to us you will be returned. And that's from the Quran, Surah 21, verse 35. And that it tells you that you're here, and both good and evil, those tests that come from God, even when you look at the Kabbalistic tree, both there is an order. One cannot exist without the other. You will be tested with both good and evil, order out of chaos, black and white tiles, good days, bad days, good days. It's inevitable, but you got to find that balance within yourself while this life is being given to you. And you're reminded of your mortality, that I'm not here to waste my time. I'm here to do the right thing and accomplish and set a foundation for myself, for my family, and do the right thing. And that's ultimately when you make that peace within your life, knowing what's coming after and what's coming before, then there's no trial or tribulation or the mental mind games of this life that could defeat you. And that's what exactly Freemasonry teaches you as well, to trust God and to know that the path ahead will be filled with both good and evil. But as long as you trust God, do the right thing, then you shall have no fear of anything. So you also have the aspect of the Sufi meeting on the level. Now, you have the aspect of the House of the Temple. They have the volume of the sacred laws. All holy books are displayed. The Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Buddhist text, everything is given equal regard. So in respect to what Freemasonry teaches is to respect each brother's faith as a volume of sacred law. That's expressed in the Sufi tradition as well. In Surah 2, verse 62, that those who believe in the Quran and those who follow Jewish scriptures and the Sabians, any who believe in God and the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord. And no, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. And there's been a misconception that as Muslims or as Sufis, we're taught to hate Christians as infidels, but that's not true. We're all brothers, we're all people of the book. And just like how Freemasonry teaches us that every man is free to follow his own faith, as long as he believes in a supreme being, does the right thing, and follows his own path in his own independent way. In this Islamic and Sufi tradition, is telling you the same thing. As long as you do work righteousness, believe in God, and do the right thing, on the day of judgment, you shall have no fear or grief for you or your family. And the aspect of verse 49, on the aspect of Surah 49, verse 10, that the believers are but brothers. So make peace between your brothers and be mindful of God so that you may be shown mercy. And also the last surah, that we make no distinction between any of his messengers. So if you really look at the esoteric teachings of Sufism in aspect of what the Quran is teaching us and what the Brotherhood is teaching us, it's basically one and the same, that everyone is equal and we're all on the level, trying to find our own path in life through our own independent way. And you have to find a path that works for you. Any path that helps you become a better person, helps you get close to God, and whatever it might be, just like how Freemasonry tells you that every brother has their own path. You find what works for you, and then you pursue that with full passion and tenacity. So you also have the aspect, the Sufis are always reciting La ilaha illallah, and they're telling you that everything in this life is an illusion. God is the only reality. It's like how I pointed out the aspect of the one hand, that everything, basically everything is one being. So myself, Brother Briggs, Brother Jason, we're all just conduits of that one being, just trying to understand each other. And that's what the Sufi tells you, that the perfect being manifested into these different avatars trying to understand itself, or God basically playing hide and seek with its own self through all of us in the flesh. And that's what they tell you about knowing thyself and knowing thy Lord. So the La ilaha illallah gets broken down in 7 syllables. And it basically tells you the aspect of, what the spiritual people call the chakra system today, that you got to work your way up from the root and go and build your temple from the foundation all the way up to the spiritual. So right here, this is the capstone. You are the temple, and this is the capstone. And that's why they tell you to protect your capstone by, wearing the cap. Because first, in a spiritual sense, when you cover your head, it also protects you from vamporoid entities or those that are draining you of any energy. And that's why even with babies, they cover their heads to protect them So you have to have the heart and mind of a child and become that child again in order to get back in the graces of the grand architect of the universe from our current fallen state. And this is from the Sufistic aspect. So you also have the aspect of being duly tested and tried. And then Sufism, I realized when I went to Pakistan and visited all of the Sufi shrines, some of those elders that I had came across, the elders of the East, some of them were very high-ranking individuals. They were high-ranking, but they would be disguised as a beggar on the street to test me. Like, is this guy really saying who he's claiming to be, or is he just like going to walk past me and not help me? So that's basically the aspect of being duly tested and tried. On the left-hand side, we have the Solomonari. The Solomonari are from Romania. They're known as the Inner Earth people. And they also do the same thing, the aspect of being disguised as beggars. And you see, he's holding a gavel, he's wearing a collar, he's holding a book with a double-headed eagle. And the Sufi elders are described in the same way, that they will test you, even after you become a master mason. I'm sure many of you have had experiences with these people coming out of the woodwork and testing you and trying you. And they tell you that when these beggars test you and you basically help them, then they give you their blessing. And with the blessings, everything kind of opens up to you, because it's about being charitable. And that has happened to me many times where I would be walking, somebody asked me for money, I give it to them. And whatever I gave to them, I would get back times 10. So that's an aspect of the grand architect of the universe testing and trying us, which we find not only in Freemasonry when a brother needs our help, but also in the Sufi traditions as well, where you have high-ranking individuals, but he would just be sitting on the street as a beggar because he has let himself go from this world. And that's why when you go to a lot of these deserts, these desert areas, and many people think, how can the Sufi elders live while there's ghouls and jinns and all these other entities living around that would devour your average human being? But these individuals have kind of ascended above a certain terrestrial sphere where the Sufi would not register as a threat or a food source to any of these beings dwelling in the desert. And that's what they're teaching you, is to let go of the attachment of this world so you can become one in your from the state that you fell from. So you also have the master of the work, which is another parallel comparison. So in the lodge, you have the worshipful master who has to master the work. He has to memorize everything and to honor the tradition which was passed on to him. Because we wouldn't be Masons today if it wasn't for the worshipful masters and those that came before us who had mastered the work and who had passed it on, so we can all take benefits and enjoy our brotherhood and camaraderie and fellowship and become who we are today is because of those traditions that were passed on. And it's our job today to pass that on to the future generations for those that are not taking their lodges seriously. It's up to you whether it survives or not. And you have to take that responsibility of passing that on to the next generation. So in the aspect of Islam, it's the same thing. When you become a Hafiz, they make you memorize all 114 surahs of the Holy Quran in Arabic from front to back, back to front, because you have to pass the work on. You have to become the master of the work. Same thing with the worshipful master. So as you see with what I've been laying down with the path and what's described in my book, it's basically one and the same, no matter which path you follow. There's you get tried, there's brotherhood, you have to learn the work, you have to help each other, become a better person. So it's all tied one and the same. So this is basically when we become from darkness to light. This is also an aspect of the seventh surah, which seventh being the seventh letter of the G in our Masonic square and compass relating to God. So it says, Allah, God is the guardian of those who believe. He brings them out of the darkness into the light. So this basically tells you that you don't have to fear anything. When you put your belief in God, God becomes your guardian when he brings you from darkness to light. And that's basically what the Sufi believes when he realizes that, okay, the path ahead might not be safe, or it might be filled with trials and tribulations, but God is my guardian. And I don't have to fear anything because everything will fall in line accordingly as I'm being brought from darkness to light. Same thing in the Masonic tradition, all one and the same. So in the Sufi aspect, we're also taught to be humble. And one of the grand masters of Sufism is known as Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, who was personally led to his path by Al-Qidr, the Green One, or who we know in many traditions as Melchizedek. So he's known as Melchizedek, as Al-Qidr, the Green One, and he was guiding Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani to his destiny. And when this man became a master, he was walking with his disciples, or let's say he himself was the master and the brothers under him, and they were like going through the town, and they came across a beggar, and he pointed at the beggar saying that the beggar is better than me. He has a higher status than me. And the students got shocked that, why would you say that? And he said that overnight, the grand architect of the universe can put me in his position and put him in my position. And that's what it's teaching you, that you always be humble. In a blink of an eye, you could lose everything. Your whole world can turn upside down in a day, in a night, in a moment of second. Even right now, anything can happen. But it's the aspect of being humble, knowing that if I worked hard to have what I have, let me not forget my roots. It's like you have many masters. They forget they were also once apprentices. And you have to have that same regard and patience for those that are beneath you and those that are above you. Just like in the Masonic aspect, that we're all on the level. Doesn't matter what your rank or title is or who you are, where you come from. Everyone is equal. But yet, nothing is perfect. Everything has an imperfection. If we were perfect, the Sufi tells you that if we were all perfect, then we wouldn't be in this realm, because this realm is a spiritual school. And the only way you can get out of here is when you achieve that perfection. And that's basically in the other traditions what they lay out to get out of that wheel, that dharma wheel of the samsara and the reincarnation cycle, because it's all relatively one and the same. You have to know the roots and what you're leaving behind for your brothers. So you also have the aspect of the Sufi. Now, this is interesting because in the historical records, they tell you that the Knights Templar don't have any historical links with Freemasonry. So we just go by what the tradition teaches us. So on the top of the hat of the Knight Templar, he has the wool, the suf. So with the word Sufi, it comes from the word suf, wool, purity, tasawwuf. Everything is the aspect of the purity. And when the Knights Templar were in the Holy Land, they were taught by the Al-Bana Sufi order. And Al-Bana Sufi order were tied to the old man of the mountain, Hassan Saba, and one of his deputies that was in the Syria area, known as Rashid ad-Din Sanan. So Hassan Saba and all of these, like the assassins and Templars, they were all studying under the King Solomon's temple, what we know as the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's why in the battle during the Crusades, because the assassin also wore white and red, and so too did the Templar. So when there was a battle going on, they didn't know which side was which because they were both one and the same. They were technically brothers in a way. They were both helping each other when needed, or they were on opposite sides, as we see it happens in world history and in conflict, that brothers can be on opposite sides of the conflict, but they're all working towards the same goal. And that's what the history of Hassan Saba and the old man of the mountain, the Al-Bana Sufi order, and why the Templars have the wool on top of their hats, because that symbolizes them being the Sufi as well, the master of purity, and having that aspect of purity on top of their heads. So you also have the numerology point of view, because of course everything is done by the numbers, right? So Freemasonry in the gematria comes up to the exact value of 787, especially with the if you use the Jewish cipher. And with it, it's simplified to 22, which can be simplified to 4. The 4 directions of the world, the 4 cardinal virtues, the aspects of the 4 levels, like I mentioned it earlier in the presentations, the 4 realms that you have to get across to become one with the grand architect. And 787, if you look at the Arabic numbers, it's the square and the compass. And that basically symbolizes the alchemical transformation from man into like lower qualities into higher qualities. And the Sufi lodges where the Knights Templar were studying at, a lot of them outside had the numbers 787 written outside of their lodges, which is the square and the compass. And as we see with the gematria, that's its exact value. So the numbers and the letters all tie in together. And 787 is equivalent to the Sufi phrase of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, God, the Beneficent and the Most Merciful. So when I came across the square and the compass, when I first saw it, to me, that was Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that everything is about God, for God, and by God. And that's what I ended up discovering when I joined the Brotherhood, that everything is a brotherhood of God, and it's all tying each other together. That's exactly what it is. So all of this stuff, it's all relative. All these different stories and aspects and comparisons. It's like I said, everything is a point within a circle, and it's all tying you back to that one source, no matter which way you perceive it from. There's truth in every path. So you also have the cable tow, and in the Holy Quran, they mention in Surah 3, verse 103, that hold fast together to the cable of Allah, God, and be not divided. Remember the blessings that Allah bestowed upon you. You were once enemies. Then he brought your hearts together so that through his blessing, you became brothers. So when we have the aspect of our cable tow, we try to help our brothers if it's within our capability or reach to do so. And this is what the Holy Quran Sufi aspect is teaching us as well, that you're on the outside world, everyone sees each other as different, that I'm white, I'm black, I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Jewish. But when you go past those doors of the temple or the doors of the lodge, you all become brothers. And it's telling you first you were divided, and then your hearts came together and you became brothers with the blessing of God as we ask for God in our undertakings. So it's all basically the aspect of unity, charity. If it's somebody within my distance where I could help them, and within my reach to do so physically, financially, emotionally, then I am obligated to help them as my brother, as they are with me. And it's all tied in together, that with God, you have to take this path seriously. And it's all teaching you that those that come into the Masonic Brotherhood and don't take it seriously or disregard it or disrespect it, you not have only cheated yourself, but you have cheated the grand architect, the creator of the universe, and yourself ultimately, because you have to bring out the best in yourself and be charitable to all those before you. And that's why you get tested in these different moments, to show you that those words are not just words. There are actions which will take place and events that will take place throughout all of your life, like a movie, and it will test you to see if you're truly a brother or not. And that's when the blessing of God opens your heart to see everything. So you also have the aspect of zikr, or what the Sufis always zikkering with their beads and praying all the time. And in ancient Egyptian, they used to call that the haka, eating the word of God. So everything is basically the aspect of prayer. And in the Sufi tradition, they tell you that when you're, let's say, being attacked by any dark elements, or you're under any spiritual attack, always stay in a state of prayer. And it doesn't matter what you do. I could do Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim 100 times on the beads, or a Christian brother could do the Lord's Prayer 100 times a day. You have to pick what works for you, but what's the most important thing is the intent behind your words. Everything is about intent and synchronicity. So if your intent is the right way, just like how when we gather together and our intent is to have brotherhood, peace, fellowship, breaking bread with each other, and that's exactly what ends up happening. So it's all about your intent and the reality that you're trying to create, because it also tells you that the affairs of this world in the Holy Quran, or the occult aspects of Islam, it tells you that man is basically the deputy of this world in terms of God handling everything. So God has given you common sense, logic, as it's taught in our liberal arts as well, to use logic, to use these different aspects of your heart, mind, body, and soul to realize what is actually correct. And in Masonry, they tell you you get out only what you put into it. And a lot of these traditions, including Sufism, they tell you that God can only help you when you help yourself. Know thyself, know thy Lord. So everything is basically an aspect of self-improvement, taking responsibility, doing the right thing for yourself and family, and just being the best that you can be. And, the best way to, put that. So you also have the magic carpet. Now, in Aladdin or all these things that you watch, they have the aspect of the magic carpet, and the Islamic prayer rug is the oblong square, which is the temple. You are the temple in the flesh, in what the Sufi tradition teaches you. And then when you're on the temple, you have to be barefoot because you're walking on holy ground. And when you pray, you see that there's the Kaaba, which is the perfect ashlar stone. You have the pillars, you have the archway. And when you pray, you're elevating yourself to a higher state of mind, a higher state of being. And when you pray, you also pray to the pillars on your temple. And you say salam here and you say salam here after you finish the prayer. And that's what the magic carpet is symbolized in a lot of these movies and video games and cartoons, that the magic carpet is lifting you up. And that's that magic within you. When you keep yourself in a state of purity, think good, know good, do good, live a good, clean life, what our brotherhood teaches us, what the Sufi tradition teaches us, no matter whatever tradition you follow, any brother is free to follow their path. And each of those traditions teach you a life of purity. All of it is basically a set of code of conduct to teach you how to follow your life in a civilized manner. And that's what it's telling you. To access the magic carpet, you have to access the magic within by being in a state of purity and prayer. So most people do not know that the only state in America to have an Islam Day every year is Hawaii. So Hawaii, out of all of the states of the Union, is the only state to have an Islam Day. And if you look here, this is like 200 years before the creation of what we know as the USA, which was established in 1776 and incorporated in 1871. And we see here two Moors, and they're wearing the Shriner's fez. And this was the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And if you look at the last king of Hawaii, he was also part of the Islamic Shriners. And that's why Hawaii is the only state of the Union which celebrates the Islam Day. And if you go and look at the names of the streets and look at the aspects of the areas, all of it will make sense to you. Now, a lot of people think that when we have the aspect of the American Civil War, and both brothers from other sides, when they recognized each other as brothers, they spared each other's lives. Whether it was in the American Civil War, here in Pennsylvania, there's a monument in Gettysburg, brother to brother. And it tells you that when both brothers saw that it was one brother on one side and the other on the other side, they had a feeling of empathy, love, brotherhood, and they spared each other's lives. Even in World War II, World War I, there were aspects where forces who hated each other, were there to destroy each other, sat down together in lodges in the aspect of harmony and brotherhood. And this goes back, our brotherhood is time immemorial. And this tradition also goes back to Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. Every time Saladin would be in danger, he would be hurt, Richard would send his best physicians to check up on him. Anything would happen to Richard, Saladin would send his forces, they would send their physicians to help each other, and they would always meet on the level. So this aspect of what we see, this tradition of brotherhood, and sometimes human history to the profane won't make sense, because they would say that these two are enemies on opposite sides, just like the Civil War or the World Wars. We also have Saladin and Richard. And that's why during the Holy Land, when Saladin was in Jerusalem, he promised to protect his Christian brothers and sisters and protected their relics, their places of worship, and making sure that all were treated equally and on the level, just like how any Masonic leader would. And if we have an abundance of Masonic leaders today, then there would be an aspect of peace and nobility established back on this world. So that's the story between Richard and Saladin. Even in the Scottish Rite, you have the Knight of St. Andrews, where you have the green Islamic background plus mixed with the knighthood. And for those that have witnessed that, you would know that when the Knights Templars were there, it's the aspect of both learning from each other, for both learning the aspect of brotherhood and understanding that each path is there to help us become better and leave this world in a better condition than we found it in. Same with the Masonic double-headed eagle. It's telling you to absorb knowledge from all directions, whether it's from the east or the west, wherever you can find knowledge. And that's why you see the Mason, he's always reading, he's always studying, he's always gathering different books, gathering his library. And that's what the Islamic tradition teaches you as well, that God is in all directions. When you pray, when you end your prayer, you end it this way, you end it that way. And that's the double-headed eagle of the grand architect of the universe in the Sufi tradition as well, that God, the all-seeing eye, al-Basir, is watching you at any given moment, witnessing your thoughts, deeds, and actions and words. And you're here. And of course, everything that my trust is in God. So everything is about God and becoming a better human being and smoothing out your rough ashlar into a smooth ashlar. Same aspect of the Sufi traditions. I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. So it's basically what the Masonic traditions and Sufi traditions teach you, is that you have to walk this path. You have to walk this path. You took the effort to come to this path and find it, and others have walked it, but you have to walk it for yourself. And there are realizations and twists and turns, the black and white tiles, good times, bad times, order out of chaos, and everything that will come in your life, and which ultimately it will help you find that realization. And I can attest to that. I am somebody who has joined this brotherhood. I had left it, I had re-entered it, and I have gained a different appreciation for it, because I realized that sometimes you have to fall down in order to get back up. Just like how it's shown in the Batman movie. Every time he tries to get out of the cave, he falls down, he falls down, he falls down, but he never gives up. Eventually, he got out of there. And that's what the Sufi and Masonic path is teaching us as well, that there will be trials and tribulations. There will be hard times that will come in your life. But when those hard times come, are you going to fold and run away? Or are you going to strengthen yourself and hone your character and your ashlar and become stronger and better and keep proceeding forward? So you also have the altar and the pillars inside the Kaaba. Most people do not know what's inside of the Kaaba in the holy city of Mecca in the east. So you have the perfect ashlar stone, and when the grand architect of the universe told Abraham to construct the house of God, he had told him, I have given you the tools. Now you construct the house of God. And this is exactly how he constructed it. The perfect ashlar stone and its a square perimeter. And inside of it, you have the pillars and the altar. Same thing. When you're at a Masonic lodge, you have the three great lights. You have the pillars, you have the altar, and you have all the brothers around dressed in white, like how we're all dressed in our lambskin Master Mason apron, equal on the level. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, whatever. Everyone is equal, trying to get close to God, to basically symbolize that within their own hearts, and which most people get confused that we worship the black stone in Kaaba, which is not true. Everything is allegorical. You have to connect to God on an internal level and on an external level. So it's all connected, even here with the Islamic prayer rug, with how the architecture is in Mecca and the holy city of the East. For me, it was all Masonic. So when I joined Freemasonry, it was just like coming home for me, because what I saw in the Sufi tradition, what I've experienced in Freemasonry, was basically one and the same for me. And this symbol right here, the Sufi heart with the wings, that basically tells you of your soul elevating to a higher level. And it's interesting because I had a dream. It was at this time last year, I had a dream that I was in this beautiful place, white castle with large pillars, and there was a squaring compass flying around me with wings on it. And when I woke up, I realized that I had dreamt of myself visiting the Celestial Grand Lodge, because I was connecting myself to a higher level. And when you do, that's when that doorway or that eye of the mind or the capstone opens up to you. But you got to work for it. Nothing is given, you got to work for it. So that's pretty much it. That's my presentation of how Sufism and Islam and Freemasonry are basically two paths, one destination. Whether you're a Sufi or a Mason, it's all teaching you the same exact thing. And that's my message, that let's eliminate all of the hatred that there is in the world, and let's help each other get that understanding and love for one another. There were many in my own Islamic community as well that had misconceptions about Freemasonry, but myself becoming a Mason and educating them and eliminating the conspiracies from their minds Many of them ended up joining the Brotherhood. So we need that exemplification that if we can all come together and love one another, no matter our race and religion, then why can't the rest of you? Where I can sit down in a room and call a Jew my brother, call a Christian my brother, call a Hindu my brother, and tell the world that this is what all of our teachings are teaching us, like I showed the verses from the Quran. And we can't let the agents of chaos. So we have to realize as above, so below. If there's a fight between light and dark taking place here, there's one taking up place up there too. And these agents of chaos will come and try to divide us. That I consider somebody an infidel, or I don't like these other people. We have to have discernment. We have to have discernment about who we are, what we stand for, what we're listening from. It's like what we see on the media, right? In 2002, all you heard was anthrax, anthrax, anthrax. 2003, they went, nothing was there. What was the price? Millions of innocent people died. Thousands of US troops died. Some were traumatized and injured for life over a lie. And that's what the agents of chaos do, is they put us against each other while we suffer, and they profiteer off of our suffering and our fear. So we have to do the right thing and have discernment and learn that each path is teaching us the same thing. Don't look at one individual as if somebody from a certain group is acting out, that's that personal individual you hold accountable. You don't generalize their entire background, because all five fingers are not the same size. When I came to America as a 5-year-old kid, I would realize the love between everybody. First, I first moved to Cleveland, Ohio, all Midwestern American town. And there was a church right next to where we lived. So I would take Quran classes and Bible classes the same day, because I realized that there was truth, love, unity being shared in all of these venues. So we have to realize that, just like how Freemasonry tells us that we're all brothers, let us exemplify that to the world too. And maybe if all of us, if collectively, if enough of us can do that, then maybe our children and our grandchildren might have a chance at a future in a chaotic world that's being torn apart right now by the agents of chaos. And the Masonic Brotherhood has to step up to the plate and exemplify all of this. I thank you all.
My brother, that was absolutely wonderful. Can you guys hear me okay? I want to make sure I got myself unmuted. We usually close at 8 o'clock, but if you can stay for a little longer, I would love to hang out for a little bit and just ask you some questions. I wrote so much down here. You know, I want to stick to your message because, you know, I feel the same. And let me share a quick story if I can, if that would be okay. When I joined Freemasonry, the news was pretty phobic. You know what I mean? It was the Bush administration and all that stuff, right? And we started Unknown Philosophers as a dinner at my house with brothers, because we were finding brothers who have seen God and have had that experience and are like, dude, my ego's in the corner like this. And I'm like, yeah, mine is too. Let's get together. Right? And our second dinner, we had a brother from Iraq, Amir. We had a brother from Iran, Shober. We had a brother from India, Krishna. We had Cosmo from Italy. We had me from the US. All of us very educated on the alchemical texts and just the enlightened texts, you know, from the people who've experienced this. And I tell you what, my brother, that conversation we had that night gives me the chills to this day. We talked about God. We talked about King Solomon's temple. And I just fell in love with Freemasonry more than I ever thought in my life in that moment, because of the love around. Everything else dropped. Nothing else even mattered in that moment. And I remember calling Brother Timothy Hogan the next day. And I said, man, I just had the most incredible evening. I said, please tell me that during the Crusades that this is what happened, that you had the war going on and you just made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, that men like us were watching this war and just, we have a connection with God on the inside. It can never be taken away from us. It's something you've seen. It'll never go away, right? They met underneath that temple and talked just like we are today. And
Absolutely.
that information came from the East and came West, like you said, from the Templars, and just kind of got into the alchemical texts and testimonies. And here we are in 2021. And I just want to say, God bless you, man. Dude, my heart's beating. I just feel the love right now. I just want to thank you for your presentation. It was wonderful. Anything you want to add?
Thank you, brother. I have much love for you, brother Jason, all of our brothers in attendance. I hope one day my journey brings me to Arizona so I could sit down and break bread with you and experience what Arizona has to offer. And my love and prayers are always with you, all of you and your families. And I pray that whatever this year has in front of us, the challenges and rewards, that we're able to be open to receive them and surrender our hearts to the divine, because everything is about surrender. And when you surrender, it all comes to you. You just have to be open to receive it. And that's the beautiful thing. Like, they were meeting 1,000+ years ago under the temple. We're still meeting now. So some things really don't change. And
Yeah.
we're all in this together. And whether you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, let's leave a better world behind for our children, and let them not suffer the way that we did in terms of the division and the chaos. Because we inherit our world from those who have fought for it, and those who have passed it down to us, including our lodge, our brotherhood, our world, the quality of life that we have in this country. Let us preserve that and not let it fall astray. So when your kids, my kids, brother Jason's kids, they have a world where they can survive. And that's what we have to do, is we have to pass. The temple basically goes from one hand and one generation to the other, with Mother Earth herself being that grand temple. And we have to do the right thing and just take life one day at a time.
Briggs, I really feel that's an inspired way to end the show. But I want to say, before we do go, for everybody listening and watching, you can find Brother Salman Sheikh's book. It's called Spiritual Reflections of the Sufi Freemason, Volume 1. Please go out and find it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Salman.
Love to all of you.
I don't want to add anything else to this, man. That was beautiful. If you could leave us with some words of wisdom that we can all focus on through the week, that would be incredible.
Thank you, my brother. It's my honor and privilege and pleasure. And what I would leave you all with is, this life is too short. Don't hurt anybody. Don't break anybody's heart. If I went to sleep right now and I don't wake up, I could face the grand architect of the universe knowing that I did right by my brothers. So if there's anybody you need to pick up the phone, call and ask for forgiveness, you need to text them, whatever it is that you need to do, let go, travel light, and that includes keeping your heart light. So whenever that call comes for you to go to the Grand Lodge above, you could go with a clean conscience and a clean heart. Just do the right thing while you have the time to do so, and love each other and forgive each other. That's the only way we can restore some sanity and some order in this world.